I still remember the exact moment my heart broke a little more. It was during our usual Sunday family dinner. The table was full of laughter and the smell of my mother's famous biryani, but I felt completely invisible. I had just finished a long 12-hour shift at the hospital and was still wearing my nurse scrubs because I didn't have time to change. My brother leaned back in his chair, smirking. "So, how's playing nurse going, sis? Still wiping old people's backs and handing out medicines?" Everyone laughed. My father shook his head with a chuckle and said, "When are you going to do something real with your life? All that studying and you're just a nurse?" My sister added, "Yeah, you could have become a proper doctor like we told you. Now you're just playing nurse." I forced a smile and stayed quiet, but inside I felt humiliated. This wasn't the first time. For years, my family had mocked my choice to become a registered nurse. They called it a backup career, a low-level job, and constantly compared me to my cousins who became engineers and doctors. No matter how hard I worked, no matter how many lives I helped save, it was never enough. Let me take you back so you can understand how deep this wound really was. My name is Aisha. I'm 29 years old and I've been a nurse for 6 years now. From the beginning, my family was disappointed when I chose nursing instead of medical school. "Doctors get respect," my father would say. "Nurses are just helpers." Those words stayed with me every single day. Even after I graduated with honors and started working in one of the busiest emergency rooms in the city, the mockery never stopped. At every family gathering, someone would make a joke about my nurse uniform or ask when I was going to upgrade to a real doctor. That Sunday dinner was especially painful. I had just dealt with a critical patient who coded twice during my shift. I saved his life. But when I tried to share that story, my brother laughed and said, "That's cute. But real doctors are the ones who actually make the big decisions." I went home that night and cried in my car before going inside my small apartment, the same apartment I paid for entirely with my nurse salary. I felt small, undervalued, and deeply hurt by the people who were supposed to love me the most. What I didn't know was that everything was about to change in the most unexpected and public way possible. The days after that painful. Sunday dinner felt heavier than usual. I went to work like always, putting on my scrubs, tying my hair back, and stepping into the chaos of the emergency room. But something inside me had shifted. The constant mockery from my family was slowly chipping away at my confidence. Every morning before my shift, I would look at myself in the mirror and repeat the same question. Am I really wasting my life like they say? I had chosen nursing because I loved it. I loved being the first person there when someone was scared, in pain, or fighting for their life. I loved holding a patient's hand, explaining their treatment gently, and being the calm voice in the middle of panic. But my family only saw the title, or the lack of it. Let me share more about how this pattern started and how deeply it affected me. From the time I was in college, my family made their disappointment very clear. When I told them I wanted to pursue nursing, my father looked shocked. "Doctors bring honor to the family," he said. "Nurses are just assistants." My mother tried to be softer, but still pushed me toward medical school. When I stood firm and got accepted into a prestigious nursing program, they barely celebrated. Meanwhile, when my cousin got into medical school, they threw a huge party. During my training years, I worked incredibly hard. I studied late into the night, practiced skills in labs, and did clinical rotations in tough departments. I graduated at the top of my class. But at the graduation ceremony, while others' families cheered loudly, mine gave polite claps and later said, "It's good, but you could have done better." Even after I got my first job in the ER, the comments continued. "Still just a nurse?" became a regular joke at family gatherings. They would ask about my salary, compare it to doctors, and shake their heads. I tried to explain how important nurses are. We are the backbone of healthcare, but they never listened. That particular week after the dinner, I had one of the most challenging shifts of my career. A major accident brought in multiple critical patients. I worked nonstop for 14 hours, assisting doctors, monitoring vitals, administering life-saving medications, and comforting terrified family members. I went home exhausted but proud of the lives we saved that day. Yet when I tried sharing this at home, my brother laughed. "Playing hero in your little nurse role again?" The humiliation burned deep. I started questioning my worth. Was I really not good enough? Had I made the wrong choice? I spent many sleepless nights replaying their words, feeling small and unappreciated. But deep down, a quiet voice inside me kept saying that my work mattered, that I was making a real difference. I just didn't know how soon the universe would prove that to everyone, especially my family, little. Did I know that a normal shift at the hospital was about to become the day everything changed? That ordinary Tuesday started like any other shift. I arrived at the hospital early, changed into my scrubs, and prepared myself mentally for whatever the ER would throw at me. I had no idea that this particular day would become one of the most important days of my life. The emergency room was unusually busy. A major highway accident had brought in several critical patients. I was working alongside Dr. Khan, one of the most respected doctors in the hospital. He was known for being strict but fair, and he always appreciated the nursing team. As the chaos unfolded, I was in my element, starting IV lines, monitoring heart rhythms, administering emergency medications, comforting scared family members, and coordinating with the doctors. At one point, a young patient came in with severe breathing difficulty. I quickly assessed him, gave oxygen, prepared the necessary drugs, and called Dr. Khan immediately. My quick actions helped stabilize him within minutes. Later that afternoon, while we were catching our breath, Dr. Khan turned to me in front of the entire team and said something I will never forget. "Aisha, excellent work today. You handled that case like a true doctor. The way you managed everything, I couldn't have done it better myself." I smiled humbly and thanked him, but his words warmed my heart deeply. What I didn't know was that my family had decided to surprise me at the hospital that same day. My parents, brother, and sister had come to check on me during visiting hours. They were standing just outside the ER area when Dr. Khan made that statement loud and clear. The moment the words, "like a true doctor," left his mouth, I saw my family's faces through the glass partition. My father's eyes widened. My mother froze. My brother and sister looked completely shocked. Dr. Khan continued, unaware of the audience. "Aisha, you're one of the best nurses I've ever worked with. Actually, you think and act like a doctor. The hospital is lucky to have you." That public recognition hit me with a wave of emotions: pride, relief, and a strange sense of justice. For years I had endured their mockery, their jokes about playing nurse, and their constant comparisons. And now, in front of them, the head of the emergency department had just called me a doctor in every way that mattered. The look on my family's faces in that moment was something I will carry with me forever. But this was only the beginning of the confrontation that would follow. The silence that followed Dr. Khan's words was deafening. I could feel my family's eyes on me through the glass. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. For years I had dreamed of a moment like this, not for revenge, but for simple recognition. And now it had happened in the most unexpected way. After my shift ended, I walked out to the waiting area where my family was standing. Their faces were a mixture of shock, awkwardness, and something I had rarely seen before: embarrassment. My father cleared his throat. "Aisha, that doctor. He called you a doctor." I nodded quietly, still processing everything. My mother stepped forward, trying to smile. "We came to surprise you. We didn't know." My brother shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, that was impressive, I guess." But even in that moment, the old pattern tried to creep back in. My sister lightly joked, "So you finally impressed someone in a white coat, huh?" The words were meant to be light, but they still stung. I didn't argue with them right there. I was too emotionally drained from the long shift. I simply said I was tired and needed to go home. But inside, a storm was brewing. That night, as I lay in bed, all the years of mockery came rushing back like a flood. I remembered every single comment, every laugh, every dismissive look. There was the time during Eid when my uncle asked what I did, and my father replied, "She's just a nurse," in front of all the relatives. Everyone nodded like it was normal. Or the countless family weddings where relatives would compare me to my doctor cousins. Look at him. Real doctor. Aisha is still doing nursing work. I had always swallowed the pain and smiled. I told myself it didn't matter, that I loved my job and that was enough. But it did matter. Every joke chipped away at my self-worth. Every "just a nurse" made me question if I had chosen the wrong path. The next few days at home were tense. My family kept bringing up the hospital incident in strange ways. My mother would say, "That doctor seemed to like you," as if my hard work only counted because a senior doctor noticed it. My brother teased, "So now you're a doctor without the degree?" The mockery had changed slightly in tone, but it was still there. I started withdrawing more. I took extra shifts at the hospital just to stay away from home. In the quiet moments between patients, I would reflect on my journey. Why had I chosen nursing? Because I wanted to help people in their most vulnerable moments. Because I was good at it. Because it felt meaningful. But their words had made me doubt that truth for so long. This incident became the turning point where the pain finally transformed into something stronger. Clarity. I realized I had spent years seeking their approval when I should have been building my own confidence. The ER chief's words weren't just praise. They were validation that I had been right all along. The real conflict, however, was just beginning. Because my family wasn't ready to let go of their old beliefs so easily. The days that followed the hospital incident were emotionally exhausting. At work, I felt a new sense of confidence. Dr. Khan started treating me with even more respect, asking for my opinion on cases, trusting me with complex patients, and openly praising my clinical judgment in team meetings. For the first time, I felt truly seen in my profession. But at home, the atmosphere was complicated. My family didn't know how to process what they had witnessed. Instead of apologizing, they responded with a strange mix of awkward compliments and continued subtle jabs. During dinner one evening, my mother said, "That doctor seemed very impressed with you, Beta. Maybe you can become a doctor later." My father nodded. "Yes, now that a big doctor noticed you, perhaps it's time to think about upgrading your career." Their words hurt more than their old mockery. Even after seeing me respected by the ER chief, they still couldn't accept that being a nurse was enough, that I was already enough. This pushed me to reflect even deeper on my journey. Let me take you back to some of the hardest moments I had endured because of their attitude. When I first joined the ER, I was so excited. I came home one day after helping save a heart attack patient and told my family with pride. My brother laughed and said, "You just passed the medicines, right? The real doctor saved him." That comment stayed with me for months. Every time I felt proud of my work, his words would echo in my head. There was also the time my cousin got engaged. At the engagement party, relatives kept asking me, "When will you become a doctor like your cousin's wife?" My father smiled and replied in front of everyone, "Aisha is happy being a nurse. It's a simple job." The humiliation I felt that night made me leave the party early and cry in my car. I had always been the good daughter, the one who never argued, who studied hard, who helped at home. But my choice of career made me the family's punchline. No matter how many critical patients I stabilized, no matter how many grateful families thanked me, my own family reduced my entire identity to just a nurse. As the weeks passed after the ER chief incident, I started keeping a journal. I wrote down every painful comment I had heard over the years, page after page filled with hurt, anger, and eventually clarity. Writing helped me see the pattern clearly. Their mockery wasn't really about my job. It was about their own expectations and ego. They wanted a doctor daughter to brag about, not a dedicated nurse who actually saved lives every single day. The emotional struggle inside me was intense. Part of me still craved their approval. The little girl who wanted her parents to be proud of her was still fighting, but another part, a stronger, wiser part, was waking up. I began to realize that my worth didn't depend on their opinion. My patients' lives mattered. My skills mattered. My dedication mattered. I started setting small boundaries. When my brother tried to joke about my job again, I calmly said, "I don't find that funny anymore." The surprised look on his face gave me a quiet sense of power. My best friend, Sarah, who is also a nurse, became my biggest support. We would talk for hours after shifts. She reminded me, "Aisha, doctors can't do anything without us. We are the ones with the patients 24/7. Her words helped me hold on to my pride. But the real turning point in my heart came when I understood this. I had spent years shrinking myself to make them comfortable. Now it was time to stand tall in who I was. The conflict with my family was far from over, But I was no longer the same girl who silently took their mockery. The more I tried to hold on to my dignity, the more my family seemed determined to test it. What started as subtle jabs after the hospital incident slowly turned into open conversations about my future. They just couldn't accept that I was proud of being a nurse. One evening, my father called me into the living room for a serious talk. My mother and siblings were already seated there like it was an intervention. My father began, "Aisha, we saw how that chief doctor praised you. It's good. But don't you think it's time to aim higher? You can still apply for medical school. We will support you." I sat there stunned. Even after witnessing Dr. Khan's respect for me, they still saw my career as incomplete. My sister added, "Yeah, now that people have noticed you, it'll be easier to switch. Being a nurse is fine, but doctor sounds much better for the family." Their words cut deep. In that moment, I realized the truth. It was never really about me. It was about their image, their pride, and what they could brag about to relatives. My hard work, my passion, my contribution to saving lives. None of it mattered unless it came with the title doctor. This conversation triggered a flood of painful memories I had buried for years. I remembered my first year as a nurse. I had worked during the pandemic when the hospitals were overwhelmed. I spent weeks in PPE suits, holding the hands of patients who were scared and alone, staying late beyond my shifts just to make sure they were comfortable. When I came home exhausted and told my family how many lives we were fighting to save, my brother replied, "It's good you're helping the real doctors." That comment broke something inside me. There was also the time I received the Best Nurse of the Year award in our hospital. I was so happy and proud. I showed the certificate to my family at dinner. My father looked at it and said, "Very nice. Now if only it said Dr." The whole table laughed. I smiled through the pain, but I cried myself to sleep that night. As I sat through that family meeting, all these memories rushed back. I felt the familiar lump in my throat, but this time something was different. Instead of shrinking, I felt a quiet anger rising. Not the explosive kind, but a calm, justified anger that gave me strength. I looked at each of them and said softly, "I love being a nurse. I save lives every single day. I comfort people when they're at their lowest. Why is that never enough for you?" The room went silent. My mother tried to speak, but I continued. "For years you've called it playing nurse. You've laughed at my uniform, my salary, my choice. Even when the ER chief called me a doctor in front of you, you still want me to change. I'm tired of trying to prove my worth to you." I finished quietly, but firmly. The silence in the room was heavy. My father looked surprised. My mother's eyes softened with guilt. My brother and sister shifted uncomfortably in their seats. For the first time, they didn't have a quick joke or dismissive comment ready. That night, I didn't wait for their response. I stood up, went to my room, and closed the door. I cried, not from sadness this time, but from the release of years of suppressed pain. I had finally spoken my truth. It felt terrifying and empowering at the same time. In the following days, the tension at home was palpable. My family became unusually quiet around me. No more open mockery, but the old energy was still there. My mother would occasionally say things like, "We only want the best for you, Beta," trying to justify their years of criticism. My father avoided the topic completely. I threw myself deeper into my work at the hospital. Dr. Khan noticed my focus and started giving me more responsibilities. He even recommended me for a special training program for senior nurses. With every new achievement, I felt myself growing stronger. I stopped seeking my family's validation and started celebrating my own small victories. But the emotional struggle was far from over. Late at night, I would still doubt myself. Was I being too harsh on my family? Were they right that I should aim for medical school? These questions haunted me. I spent many nights journaling, trying to separate their voice from my own. One particularly difficult memory kept returning. During my second year of nursing, I had a patient, an elderly woman who reminded me of my grandmother. She was scared and alone. I stayed beyond my shift to hold her hand and comfort her until her family arrived. She later told Dr. Khan that my care made her feel safe. When I shared this story at home, my family's only response was, "Good. At least you're useful to the doctors." That kind of constant invalidation had slowly poisoned my self-confidence. But now, After the ER chief incident and my stand at home, I was slowly reclaiming it. I started spending more time with my friend Sarah and other colleagues who understood the value of nursing. Their support helped me see my profession with fresh eyes. Nurses are not just helpers. We are critical thinkers, lifesavers, advocates, and the heart of patient care. The more I embraced this truth, the less power my family's words held over me. I began to feel a shift, from pain and self-doubt to quiet strength and self-respect. I knew a bigger confrontation was coming, but I was no longer afraid of it. I was ready to protect the woman I had become. The weeks that followed my quiet stand in the living room became a time of deep inner transformation. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped defending my career. I simply lived it with pride. At the hospital, I excelled even more. Dr. Khan officially made me the lead nurse on several critical cases, and his trust in me grew stronger every day. Patients and their families began requesting me by name because of the calm and competence I brought during their most frightening moments. But at home, the silence was loud. My family was struggling to adjust to this new version of me, the one who no longer laughed at their jokes or sought their approval. My mother tried multiple times to bring up medical school again, but I would gently reply, "I am already doing what I love, Ami. Please respect that." One evening, my brother tried his old teasing again. "Still playing nurse, Aisha?" The word slipped out of habit. This time I looked him straight in the eyes and said calmly, "I don't allow anyone to disrespect my profession anymore, not even you." The seriousness in my voice surprised him. He muttered something and left the room. That small moment felt like a huge victory. I spent many nights reflecting on the long journey that brought me here. From the girl who cried after every family gathering to the woman who was finally choosing herself. I remembered all the times I had almost quit nursing because their words made me feel worthless. The late nights studying while they questioned my choices. The exhaustion after tough shifts only to come home to mockery. The quiet pride I felt saving lives that they never acknowledged. Those memories no longer broke me. They fueled me. I started focusing on my own growth. I enrolled in an advanced certification course, took on mentoring new nurses, and even began writing a small blog about real experiences in the ER to help reduce stigma around the nursing profession. Every positive comment from readers reminded me that my work had value far beyond my family's opinion. The emotional shift was powerful. The pain of years of betrayal and mockery slowly turned into clarity and strength. I realized I had been carrying their expectations like heavy chains. The day Dr. Khan called me like a true doctor in front of them didn't just validate me, it exposed their narrow thinking. I was no longer the insecure girl desperate for family approval. I had become a confident, skilled, compassionate nurse who knew her worth, and that realization felt like true freedom. The internal battle was finally settling. I had moved from heartbreak and self-doubt to quiet empowerment. I was ready for whatever came next, whether it was more confrontation or genuine change from my family. The climax of this chapter in my life was approaching, and I felt prepared to face it with dignity and strength. The real turning point came about 3 weeks after my calm confrontation with the family. My hospital was organizing a special award ceremony for outstanding staff in the emergency department. Dr. Khan personally recommended me for the Excellence in Patient Care Award. When I told my family about it, their reaction was different this time, hesitant and quiet. On the day of the ceremony, I invited them to attend. To my surprise, they all came. I could see the nervousness on their faces as they sat in the audience. I wore my nurse uniform with pride, my name tag clearly visible. When it was my turn, Dr. Khan stood at the podium and spoke warmly about me. In front of everyone, hospital staff, guests, and my family, he said these powerful words. "Aisha is not just an exceptional nurse. She thinks, acts, and leads like a true doctor. Her clinical judgment, compassion, and dedication have saved countless lives in our ER. Today, we honor her as one of the finest professionals I have ever worked with." The applause was loud and genuine. As I walked up to receive the award, I glanced at my family. My father had tears in his eyes. My mother was covering her mouth in shock. My brother and sister sat completely still, looking stunned. That moment felt like full-circle justice. Years of being called just a nurse, of being mocked and belittled, were answered publicly by the respect of the ER chief himself. After the ceremony, my family waited for me outside. The atmosphere was thick with emotion. My father was the first to speak, his voice shaky. "Aisha, we had no idea. We are so sorry." My mother hugged me tightly, crying. "We were wrong, Beta. We hurt you for so many years. Please forgive us." Even my brother looked ashamed. "I thought I was just joking around. I didn't realize how much it affected you." I stood there, holding my award, feeling a mixture of relief, sadness, and quiet victory. I didn't yell or throw their past words back at them. I simply said, "I love being a nurse. I have always loved it. All I ever wanted was your respect." That day marked the beginning of real change in our family. In the weeks after the award ceremony, my family began showing small but meaningful changes. The constant jokes and comparisons slowly disappeared. My mother started asking genuine questions about my work, not in a dismissive way, but with real interest. She would say, "Tell me about your patients today," and actually listen to my stories. My father, who had always been the most critical, became unusually quiet at first. Then one evening he sat with me on the balcony and said something I had waited years to hear. "Aisha, I was wrong. I thought being a doctor was the only way to bring honor to the family. But after seeing how respected you are, I realize I never understood how important your work is." His apology wasn't perfect, but it was sincere. I could see the regret in his eyes. For the first time, he acknowledged how deeply their words had hurt me over the years. My brother and sister also started treating me differently. My brother stopped with the playing nurse jokes completely. One day he even said, "I'm proud of you, sis. What you do is hard." Those simple words meant more to me than he probably realized. However, healing wasn't instant. There were still difficult moments. Old habits don't disappear overnight. Sometimes during family gatherings, a relative would make an old-style comment, and I would see my parents gently correct them now. That small support from them meant the world to me. I continued excelling at the hospital. Dr. Khan became my mentor and encouraged me to take on leadership roles in the nursing team. I felt confident, valued, and fulfilled in my career like never before. The same job my family once mocked had now become my greatest source of pride and purpose. During this time, I reflected a lot on the journey. I realized the ER chief's words that day weren't just praise for me. They were a mirror for my family. They were forced to see me through someone else's respected eyes, and it shattered their narrow beliefs. I also understood that true revenge isn't about making others suffer. It's about refusing to let their words define you. By continuing to show up with excellence and finally speaking my truth, I created the justice I needed, not through anger, but through quiet dignity and self-respect. My best friend Sarah often told me, "You didn't just win at work, Aisha. You won back yourself." And she was right. Months passed after the award ceremony, and our family dynamic continued to evolve slowly, but beautifully. The change wasn't dramatic or perfect, but it was real. For the first time in years, I felt seen and valued at home, not just at the hospital. My mother started cooking my favorite meals after long shifts and would wait up for me just to hear about my day. She once told me, "I used to think only doctors were heroes. But you are the one who holds patients' hands when they're scared. You are the one who notices when something is wrong before anyone else." I'm sorry it took me so long to see that. My father became my biggest supporter in unexpected ways. He began reading articles about the importance of nursing and would share them with me. One day, he proudly told his friends at a gathering, "My daughter is one of the best nurses in the city. Even the ER chief calls her a doctor." Hearing him say that with genuine pride brought tears to my eyes. My brother and sister also made efforts. My brother started helping me with household chores after my long shifts, and my sister began asking for my medical advice on small things, showing respect for my knowledge. The teasing had completely stopped. In its place was a new kind of relationship, one built on mutual respect. I continued growing in my career. I completed my advanced certification and was promoted to senior nurse supervisor in the ER. Dr. Khan often introduced me to new doctors and residents as the heart and brain of our department. Every time he said something like that, it healed another piece of the old wound. During this healing period, I took time to truly forgive, not just for them, but for myself. I wrote long letters that I never sent, expressing all the pain I had carried. I burned them in a small ceremony in my balcony one night, watching the smoke carry away years of resentment. It felt incredibly freeing. I also started mentoring young nursing students. I shared my story with them, the mockery, the self-doubt, and how I learned to stand in my worth. Many of them told me my words gave them strength to keep going, despite similar family pressures. That impact meant more to me than any title ever could. Looking back, I realized the real victory wasn't the ER chief calling me doctor. The real victory was the day I stopped needing that external validation. The day I chose to be proud of myself, even when my own family couldn't see my value. The journey taught me that family can hurt you the most, but they can also grow with you if you give them a chance while protecting your peace. I had learned to set boundaries with love instead of anger. The pain of years of mockery had transformed into my greatest source of strength. I was no longer the girl shrinking in the corner of family photos. I was standing tall in my scrubs, proud of every life I touched. Today, more than a year after that life-changing day in the ER, I stand in a very different place. The girl who once cried silently after every family dinner is now a confident, proud woman who knows her worth. The mockery that once broke me has become the fuel that made me stronger. My family and I have built a healthier relationship. We still have our moments. Old habits don't vanish completely, but there is now genuine respect and love. My father proudly introduces me as my daughter Aisha, the backbone of the emergency department. My mother tells relatives, never underestimate a nurse. They are the real heroes. Those words still feel surreal sometimes, but they heal me every time. At the hospital, I continue to grow. Dr. Khan remains my mentor, and I've taken on training new nurses while handling critical cases. I've received more awards and recognition, but the greatest reward is knowing I made a difference in people's lives, and finally receiving acknowledgement from the people who matter most to me. Looking back at my entire journey, I realized the most powerful lesson I learned. Never let anyone diminish your worth, not even your own family. Your value is not in a title. It is in your heart, your dedication, your compassion, and the lives you touch every single day. The ER chief calling me doctor in front of my family was a beautiful moment of justice. But the real revenge was much quieter and deeper. It was the day I stopped shrinking myself, the day I chose to be proud of my scrubs, my skills, and my calling as a nurse. The day I understood that I don't need anyone's permission to value myself. If you are watching this and your family has ever mocked your dreams, your career, or your choices, I want you to hear this. Keep going. Your time will come. The same people who doubt you today may one day see your true worth. But even if they don't, you must see it for yourself. You are enough exactly as you are. Your passion matters. Your hard work matters. Your contribution matters. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, please share your own experiences in the comments. Have you ever been mocked by family for your career? How did you overcome it? Remember, stay strong, stay kind, and never stop believing in yourself.